Well, we made it through July. If it felt like it asked you to pause, reflect, or let go of things, you're definitely not alone. Now, August is here, and intuitive astrologer Stevie Calista is joining us once again to help us understand the energy ahead, what to pay attention to, and how to make the most of this next month. Let's get going. Hi, Stevie.
Hi, how are you?
I am like in such a weird place in the sense that July, I know, brought so much, I think, change or the beginning of change for so many people. And yet it also, I think, brought in my life like a much needed, as I said in the intro, a pause and a time to reflect. And I would even say reset. And so I'm excited for August, but I've actually really appreciated the break, if that's the right way to put it. At least it was in my life. What about you?
Yeah, I think that Mercury retrograde in Cancer gave people a long reset. So I think some people took it and ran with it and just like leaned into it. And I think a lot of people struggled through like the emotional side of Cancer, especially because I think Cancer season, a lot of people are around their family, and family can be incredibly nourishing or incredibly triggering.
That
So
is a really good point.
I think it
Yes.
just it depended. And then at the end of the month, Saturn stationed retrograde and kind of kicked us in the ass right after that.
Yes.
It,
That
it
is true.
yeah, it's been interesting.
And you and I were talking about this before we started, both in our own lives, and we're getting people reaching out to us. When you talk about that Saturn, it has definitely kicked a lot of people into some sort of gear and been like, okay, in whatever area that is in your life, it's really illuminating it.
For sure. And I think Saturn in Aries for the next couple of years is really asking us like who the heck are we
Mm.
for real, like, and to embrace our human and to start new things and to kind of ask ourselves, like, are these identities and masks we've been wearing actually ours, or were they given to us by our parents or society or just the old version of ourselves? And so I think when you're in that Aries energy, you have to get real with yourself. And that's
Mhm.
definitely not easy because it takes all the inner work. You can't go outward to do it. Even if you try to like blame, right? You're still going to be invited back to the self. So it's hard.
It is. And it's part of why we're here.
Yeah.
It's the teacher. So, all right. So what do we have coming up for August? What do we have in this first week?
So August is eclipse season, and we have two eclipses this month. So both the new moon and full moon are lunar and solar eclipses. So this is definitely a month where you're gonna notice that, especially if your chart's really activated, that you're going to be pushed through these endings and beginnings. So the first week of August, we have on the first or second, people celebrate Lammas, but actually the astrological point is on the seventh, which is the halfway point between the solstice and the equinox when the sun's at 15 degrees of Leo. So whenever we have these halfway points or solstices and equinox, you guys are probably sick of me talking about them, but they're like where the veil thins, where energy gets louder. So it's historically speaking, it's when we start to really harvest. We start, and the days start to get shorter, but it's still very plentiful. Things are still like very alive and lush. And so it's a good time to celebrate summer and celebrate the ending of it. So that would be anytime that first week is a great time to do it.
And how do you spell that?
Lammas.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And the biggest theme with Lammas is gratitude for the harvest and gratitude for all that is ripe and just the plentifulness of nature. It is very, before we start to go into equinox, autumn energy, saying goodbye kind of, but being very grateful. So,
It's just that reminder to savor.
yep, definitely. On the 3rd, Chiron will be stationing and going retrograde, which means the first week of August, Chiron's energy is very strong. When Chiron's energy is strong, usually there is some moments of self-reflection for healing. Sometimes it means we get really upset or our wounds get very activated or triggered by someone, ourselves, whoever. And also it's a time where we're being invited in to like honor how much we've healed and how much we're helping other people through what we've been through. So that's on the 3rd. On the 6th, Venus goes into Libra. where she's home. Venus in Libra is very social, very stylish. She loves to be around people. She loves to create harmony and balance. So it's a good time to think about where do I need more balance in my life in any aspect, right? And where can I create more harmony and beauty and cohesiveness in my life? So that will be for the 3 weeks. And then Mercury is out of its shadow on the 6th. So it's out of the cycle that it started in June. We went,
Wow.
forward and then back and then forward again. And that would be the time where it's in new territory. So even in the first week of August and the end of July, we were still walking the path we walked earlier, integrating what's been going on. So that's kind of cool because that's new territory for Mercury.
Yeah.
And then on the 9th, Mercury goes into Leo. And so it's been in Cancer for quite some time, right? Since June. And in Leo, Mercury likes to just take the mic and express, create, party, have fun, really connect to the heart. So that's very, really playful. And it's also fire. So it's kind of like it's a good few weeks to really follow your passion and maybe start something new or start something creative in your life or just have fun. Just like a nod back to little you, basically.
And perfect time too, because you're still in the northern hemisphere. We're in the summer and it invites, I feel like, play.
Hey, yeah, for sure. And we're still very much in Leo season right now, right? So Leo is all about that inner child and being playful and enjoying life and leisure and romance and fun and creativity. So, and party, I always think
Yeah.
party when I think of Leo, like, ooh, time, the fun's here.
Yeah.
Time to have fun. Don't take it so seriously. And also, like with eclipse season, we just had at the very end of July, we had the node shift right into Aquarius and Leo.
Yes.
So we're in that new 18-month cycle that the first eclipse is going to trigger. And so Leo Aquarius in your chart, it's really activated, those two houses in your chart. And, you can take a look and see like where's the first house and seventh house or wherever it is in your chart and see what it means. But yeah, we're all kind of trying to figure out our place in society and how we belong to a greater, bigger group and how we can help the collective humanity grow into a more heart-centered unity consciousness. So that's going to take center stage the next 18 months too. And we're integrating that energy now in August. So yeah, I feel like August is really, because we were like fire horse, and I think
Yes.
we felt it, but I think and maybe not. This is just kind of intuitive. I feel like we're really going to feel it
In August.
in August, September, October. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you need to get on the horse. Oh, you fell off the horse. Get back on the horse. It's going.
Wow.
Yeah. It's just because it's, eclipse season, so it tends to peak energies in general.
Right.
Makes
Right. They're
sense.
more
Doesn't matter.
intense. It's more
Exactly.
intense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the first week. It's kind of a mixed bag, basically. The second week, we have Mars going into Cancer, and it's been in Gemini for the last 6 weeks, which is very like curious and collecting information and social and reading all the books and writing all the things. In Cancer, it asks us to slow down and nest and tend to our hearth, our home, our family, our emotions, and to really take action to nourish ourselves or to feel our feelings. So we have 6 weeks of that. I always feel like Mars in Cancer asks us to tend to our roots. So that
Hmm.
could be learning about your family history or painting your walls or, sobbing in the bathroom like while you're taking a shower. I don't know, but there's a lot of like nourishing and tending to yourself and your family in August as well, and it will help ground you. We also have on the 12th is the solar eclipse. So this is 20-degree Leo new moon. So look to see where 20 degrees of Leo is in your chart and you'll see where the eclipse is happening. This one is a south node eclipse, meaning it's an ending. So
Okay.
while it's a new moon where we plant new seeds, with eclipses, I don't highly recommend setting big intentions because your soul's already driving anyway, and it's not pointless, but it's like you just gotta flow with it as much as you can and just pay attention. But the south node energy of this one definitely speaks to endings or like places that maybe you felt kind of stuck. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that definitely will help you closing chapters, basically.
Wow.
Closing the chapters. The other thing about this is Mercury and Jupiter are together in Leo. So we have four planets in Leo. And this is activating the barbell basket that all the astrologers are talking about. And so there are massive shifts that can happen collectively and in your own personal life around your heart. So this is a very heart opening, also creative in a lot of ways. Like I wouldn't be surprised if you had a lot of creative ideas that you wanted to foster. There's something about like a piece of you in the heart center that needs to be healed with this one.
Wow. And this basically kicks off on August 12th. And the eclipse is something that energy will last for quite some time.
Definitely.
But then this other aspect of Mercury and Jupiter and all these planets, that's something that also is that the same date or within the few days?
Yeah, that it's in within a few days,
Okay,
basically. And at the eclipse, they are Mercury and Jupiter are together, and they're
got it.
all. The thing about this that I find interesting is that the sun is home in Leo. The sun is Leo ruled, right? Leo is ruled by the sun. So when you have the sun being eclipsed in its home sign, it feels extra potent to me.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll tell you, just everyone has so many different things going on in their own lives. I'm thinking about like when you said to me that there's real endings going on with this eclipse. That's the day that I'm leaving Bella at school, right?
Yeah,
Like so my daughter's starting her freshman year in college and she's going quite far away. And that's so interesting to me. And then as you said that there's all this from a heart-centered place, what's going to be going on for me in that sense is like, okay, like next chapter. It's just very interesting. It's like a whole lots of transformation. And when the astrology can validate some of that, it's really so impactful.
for sure. And this eclipse has a harmonious aspect to Saturn and Aries, so it has a lot to do with like what we were talking about with the identity in a way that's like
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of letting in a new identity or letting you take down a mask or inviting you to express yourself in a new way. I always think of Leo's has the mic and it's telling you how it feels and it's not afraid to be confident and shine and inspire other people. So these are all themes of this eclipse, honestly.
Wow. Yeah. So I'm interested for those listening, like where this hits in your life.
Yeah.
And can you pinpoint some situations going on?
For sure. And I find like a South Node eclipse, yes, there's an ending there, but it's also an invitation to a new version of yourself.
Yeah, clearly.
What happens when we end? There's always a new beginning. Yeah,
Exactly.
life, death, life
Exactly.
cycles, basically. It's
Yes. Which is what I typically think of with new moons too. There are that invitation for
yeah,
something new,
yeah.
but it's pretty interesting that there's also highlighting something from a South Node perspective that's
Yes. Yes.
ending.
And when we talk about the collective or South Node in Leo, South Node in Leo, you're going to see the shadow, and the shadow of Leo would be ego, like getting in the way, or you thinking you're like the only thing that matters, or why is nobody listening to me? And you're not listening to anybody else.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it's kind of getting in your own way in an overconfident or even the shadow of Leo can be like self-esteem issues, like trying to put on the confident face. When you're around those people you can just tell
Yes.
that it's
Very
a
much.
mask that they have to wear to feel okay in their body. So some of that kind of stuff might come up for us too.
It's a good watch out.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the second week.
Yep.
And eclipses usually we've been feeling these since July. So we're already some astrologers say 6 months, some say 6 weeks, but we're in it.
Yes. When we say that, like it's both prior to that exact point and then
Right.
after.
And after.
Yeah.
Exactly. Before and after.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the third week, the 17th through the 23rd, on the 17th, we have Mars squaring Neptune. And I don't usually talk about quote unquote minor aspects, but I find Mars to be very activating for us. And when we square into Neptune from Cancer into Aries, it's like this is definitely a call to tend to yourself. Take care of yourself. Take action for your home, for your family, for your body. With Mars and Neptune, there can sometimes be a little bit of like delusion. Like I'm going to take action for the story that I'm telling myself, and it's not necessarily real. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So be careful with your actions, is what I will say this week. Just pay attention to how you're noticing you want to take action for yourself or your family or your home. And is it necessarily a grounded choice? Or does it feel a little foggy and emotional? Are you wrapped up in the story? Do you need to ground? Do you need to like come back to yourself a little bit? Just like take caution is what I'm going to say.
How long does that energy kind of stick around?
That week,
Okay,
that
that's
week.
good.
And
That's
maybe
good.
even like a few days before and a few days after, like especially. Mars moves a little bit slower than like the sun or something. So, and then we have, again, a minor aspect, but for some reason I was intuitively told to write this down. On the 21st, we have Venus in Libra opposite Saturn and Aries, and that's me versus we. Like, how do I take responsibility for myself and how I feel in this relationship? How do I create harmony and balance for myself while still honoring the other person's desires or heart? And so there's a little bit of a tug. And oppositions aren't necessarily challenge as much as they're like a call to find balance, you know?
Mhm.
So this is about getting real with your boundaries and your desires within relationships.
Okay. That's,
So again, a small aspect, only a few days, but for some reason it feels important.
I think that is. And I
Yeah.
know people who listen to this every month, they're going to come back and they're going to listen to this that week.
Sure. An example too, last in July, I remember Mercury was squaring Saturn, and so many people were messaging me like, what the hell is going on?
Yes.
Which
Yes.
is a minor aspect, but man, was it loud for people. It just, sometimes they are. They don't last long, but sometimes they're very potent.
Yeah. And it's like that if you know it and you can sit with that, look at it, really be aware, but then let it go for a week, you're going to feel different a
Yeah.
week later.
Thank
Yeah.
goodness. Like all these energies are temporary.
Agree.
Although some of them are awesome and you're like, this feels so good.
It's true.
And then 2 days later, you're like, oh, it's
Oh,
gone.
I know. So true.
And the last thing that I have that week is the 22nd is when the sun moves into Virgo and we welcome Virgo season. And Virgo is an earth sign that is like a computer Excel spreadsheet. It really likes to have a plan and control. It's always trying to make things better or more efficient. So as we welcome in Virgo season, a lot of people are, this is like back to school energy, back to
Yeah.
routines, which is so perfect, honestly, because we all start to really crave it at that time.
Yes. I know. Even though because we're still at the top of August, I'm like not ready for that yet, but
Nope.
I know we will be.
Yeah, we'll get into it and be like, oh yeah, I'm ready.
Yes.
So yeah, that's the 17th through the 23rd. They're kind of minor aspects in general, but we're still very much in eclipse energy. So there's still massive endings and beginnings happening to everyone during this period of time. And that doesn't mean you lose your job. It could just mean you're being invited into to take a look at emotion or a past, or it could
Yeah.
mean like massive life change. I don't want to make anybody freaked out.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
fear mongering is real in the astrology community, so we have to be
That's
careful.
true. Yeah. No, it could be something much, much smaller, but even
Right,
an awareness within yourself
right.
that you're just like, oh, I'm done. I'm done with that.
Yes. And usually when we're talking about eclipse season, what I mean when the soul takes the wheel is that you'll notice that you cannot do XYZ anymore. You just can't. You
Yeah.
can no longer do the thing that you know your soul's just like, hello, remember, and you can't help it. You can't.
So true.
Yeah. Like, what are
Yeah.
you doing? You hate this. Why do you keep doing this?
And you usually that like will show up in your inner voice.
Yeah.
And sometimes like you physically can feel it.
Yeah. And I want to say too, that does not mean that you have a whole bunch of clarity as what is next, because I feel like this year is inviting us into a space of being more present and not necessarily knowing what's going to happen. Even though you know that you don't want to do this thing anymore, doesn't necessarily mean that you know exactly what the next thing is. Because I have a lot of clients struggling with that right now. What is the thing? I'm like, it's not supposed to be quite clear yet because you're clearing or you're ending. You know what I mean?
I do.
It's so frustrating though for people and myself included.
Me
Like,
too.
come on.
Yes, listen, we do what we do because we're
Yeah.
looking for
Right.
guidance and like
Right.
tell us what's the next thing, you know?
Yes.
What I think you and I have learned over all of these years is to have unconditional faith.
Yeah.
Somehow it does work out,
Yeah.
or the answers come. It's just not always on the timeline that we want it to be, but it's on
Yeah.
the timeline that our soul needs it to be.
Yeah. We don't even know what it is sometimes.
No, we can't even imagine. And yet, listen, for all of you that are similar to Stevie and I are like, come on. But like we want to know, we want to prepare, we want to get there. Yeah.
Yeah. What is it? What do I
All the
need to do?
things.
What do I
Yeah,
need to do? Yeah.
totally.
So the last week is Mercury goes into Virgo. So now it's out of Leo's mic, and it's expressing itself and being the life of the party. And now Mercury in Virgo is actually the computer Excel spreadsheet. You
Okay.
have Mercury in Virgo, your brain functions like a computer Excel spreadsheet, and everybody starts to get very detailed and productive. And you're going to notice the gyms are going to be more packed and like we got to do the things, let's get things done. So this part of this last week of August into September is a really good time to focus on your like, what are your routines? What are your habits? Do you need to check your accounting books? Like detailed type stuff. When Mercury's in an earth sign, especially Virgo, it just flows so much easier.
Oof, that's good to know.
So catch up on your accounting. That's what I always do.
I
Get a
I
week.
mean, I feel like I'm gonna like literally put that in my calendar.
Time,
Yes.
time for the books. Essentially, your mind is grounded enough to really like check some stuff off.
Mm.
Especially for those ADH people out there that have fire and earth minds, Mercury's like it's a really good opportunity to be able to focus more. So that's on the 25th. And then on the 27th, the Sun and Mercury meet up, which is the full moon of Mercury cycle, which started on July 12th.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
whatever, and I think we spoke about this in July, but whatever you kind of started around the July 12th, 13th, maybe you didn't intentionally say, I'm going to start this project. But just going back to that week, was there anything that you kind of planted a new seed of Mercury, which is more intellectually based,
Mhm.
communication, writing, reading, learning, etc. This is kind of a time where you can look back and be like, okay, there's an illumination on that. This is the halfway point of that cycle. And so is there something about it that you need to take a look at? Or maybe this is where you pivot a little bit or change some things or just notice you're halfway. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's cool.
And
I
it's
love
in
that.
Virgo. So it's
Yeah.
very detailed.
It goes along with every, right.
Yeah.
You can look at it and then you can make an adjustment if needed.
Yes. Make it more efficient, make it
Yes.
better. Yeah. And then the last thing that I have, and one of the most important, is on the 28th is the full moon at 4 degrees of Pisces lunar eclipse. This one is visible in the United States, and the solar eclipse on the 12th is visible on the East Coast.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
cool.
according to my nerd book, that's what it says.
I love that.
This one does say it's visible in the United States, so I'm not sure where, but I'm sure there's a map we can Google or maybe attach to the newsletter so we can
Yeah. Yeah,
see.
we can do that.
So this one is 4 degrees of Pisces, and this is speaking to where the nodes were before in Virgo and Pisces. Okay, so it's still speaking to where they used to be. So this to me feels very much like an invitation to surrender. Pisces energy is very dreamy and floaty. It's very intuitive. It's very creative. It's the floater. It's the musician. It's the dancer. It's flow state, really like channeling divine source of creativity. So when you have the sun in Virgo, and the moon in Pisces and they're being eclipsed, there's something about a way that you are trying to control something that you need to not. So stop it. Stop it. Start surrendering, start trusting, start connecting to something greater than yourself. This is a really good time to take some solitude and just be in your energy body as much as possible. And it's squaring Uranus.
Oof.
So when you So they're all mutable signs, and mutable in astrology is movable. So it's not like we hit like a fixed wall and we're like, it's more like, oh, you need to pivot. Like something needs to change here. So the square to Uranus and Gemini says there's a new perspective. You need to change something. You need to look at something very differently, or you need to open your mind to a new way of thinking. So pay attention to like those little light bulb moments, or if you start noticing that you're in that prison trap, you know what I'm saying? Where do I feel like I'm being strangled or like I'm trapped and I feel like I can't get out? This is the type of eclipse that's going to be like the door is open. Like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? You're
Wow.
you're forcing something that's not necessarily needing to be forced. If you just surrender, the door just like whoosh, swings open and then you pivot. But yeah, squares to Uranus and eclipses can definitely signal change, collective
Yeah.
change, especially because this eclipses tend to be like we see them on the world stage as much as we see them in our own life.
Yes. Yes. And as you brought up, like that fire horse energy, like it's gonna help us move in potentially a different direction
Yes,
if
for
that's
sure.
needed. And it's gonna show or at least illuminate that next part of the path for us.
Exactly. Especially because it is a full moon, but there is an eclipse. And so with eclipses, because our luminary bodies are being blocked, there's
Mm.
a moment of shadow. There's a moment of like, did you not notice that? And when the lights go off, you notice.
Wow, that's
Right?
cool.
So like something you didn't notice usually with eclipses starts to form. And this one's a North Node eclipse, meaning that there's an invitation into something new, into a new chapter. But you gotta like shift something or change something or untrap yourself by not trying to control it so much.
Wow.
So we'll see what that one
So
brings.
curious what that's going to
Yes.
be, both collectively and for each of us.
100%. Yeah. And
Yeah,
that's 4 degrees of Pisces again, guys. So go look to see where 4 degrees of Pisces or Virgo or Uranus is in your chart, and you'll get a visual or some information about where this is showing up for you.
that's really helpful. And can you explain to people when something's towards the beginning degrees of that sign, what does that mean versus at the end?
Yeah, so that's this is so interesting you're asking this, Robin, because I was like, I need to make a video all about this because all this information came in when I was in the shower the other
Oh,
day. So
that's so
funny.
funny.
So like, Neptune is at the very beginning degrees of Aries. And when you're in the very beginning stages of something, it's new and you're kind of exploring. So Uranus is at the beginning stages of Gemini in this eclipse. And so there's like, this is where we're like, like I didn't realize all these things. And once you get into the middle, you're starting to get momentum. When you get to the end, you're starting to close it up and kind of integrate a lot. So the beginning, we're in a lot of beginning energies in a lot of different signs for a lot of different planets this year. That's also why it's the fire horse. A lot of the territory is like, whoa, what? What? And we're integrating that. We're getting used to it. But it's definitely, you notice like it's a lot of exploring. It's a lot of getting used to the energy itself.
That's why, yeah, it feels like there's a lot of this newness, like
Yeah.
this, oh, as you said.
Yeah. Like the curtain gets pulled and you're like, oh,
Yeah,
I didn't see that before. And you're like, oh,
totally.
and you're not quite sure what that means. This is what
Right.
I'm talking about with not having full clarity about like who you are. You know you're not that anymore. And
That's true.
now
Yeah.
you have this and you're like, what is this? So I hope that explains it.
It does. It
Okay.
does. And I think the more that these little things that come up clarify for people, like why that's important, like why
Right.
understanding that. And I love the invitation for people to go check out where is it for you? Where's 4 degrees Pisces for you when it comes to this full moon? Understanding that. And, those are relatively easy to find if you know your birth chart. But that's also a good reason to reach out to Stevie and
For
get a
sure.
birth
Yeah. If
chart
you want to,
reading if you've never
right.
had one. Because I think what Stevie does that's so different than if, number one, most of us can't just look at a birth chart and understand what it means. It looks really cool. And each one of us has such a unique chart. And what you need is someone like Stevie to go through it with you. And what makes Stevie so unique, in my opinion, is that she brings in her own intuitive insights into everything that she's giving you in terms of the information that's important to you. And the way, Stevie, that you do these, it's like you are channeling to a degree, I would say, what we most need to hear. So there's so much information, and you're going to give someone like that blueprint of who they are, why they're here. But then what do they need to know now? What's important? What does their soul need to hear? And you are such a clear channel of that. I
Thank you.
believe.
I appreciate
And really, most people who are listening, I'm sure, have worked with you in some way. And those who are coming to you for the first time, Stevie is just such an unbelievable source and guide in all of our lives.
Thank you,
I
Robin.
just needed to
So
say that.
sweet. You're so
It's
sweet. Thank you.
true. I always say this, and so for those who've heard it, just ignore me. But I will never forget when my husband had his first reading with Stevie, and he walked out of the room that he had done this reading, and he looked at me and he's, I think Stevie knows me better than you do. And I was like, wait, what? What do you mean? And you said things to Jeff that he was like, I've never said that to anybody. It was something that was in, things that were in his mind that he's always felt about himself.
Yeah.
And you had and I always say this too, there are certain words that you say that are just perfect. Explain a feeling, an idea, whatever it is. It just, and again, that's to me because it's flowing through you for what our soul needs to hear. And then
Thank
you're able to use that chart as your guide for
Thank you.
someone.
It's so fun, you guys. This is like what lights my soul up to do that. So I very much enjoy it. And if you have a 20-degree Leo or a 4-degree Pisces planet or placement, this will be louder for you. So if you do want some guidance or support, it is my favorite thing to do is like guide people, help
I
people.
know. I mean,
Yeah.
listen, as I said, I'm dropping my daughter off at school, which is it's a big step for all of us. Her really starting a new path. And I'm having her talk to Stevie right before she goes.
Yeah.
I can't wait. So
I can load up her backpack with all kinds of empowering.
exactly. And
Yeah.
that's what it is. It's empowering.
Yeah.
So everyone needs to go to steviecalista.com, check out all of your offerings, go
Thank
to
you.
Substack, subscribe to you on Substack, Letter from the Stars. And Stevie, thank you for this
Pleasure.
guide, this
Yeah.
August guide that we all
I hope it supports you all.
need, because
Yes.
August is clearly a very different energetic month than July.
Yeah, for
Even though
sure.
July had a lot of stuff, it was like the beginning of
Yeah,
change. But this, to me, it's action oriented.
for sure. More fire. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll be back in September to discuss.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Thanks, Robin.
Thank you.